Welcome into Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, still on the road, but we've got things to tackle with lame duck session in over the weekend and some big things happening as Springfield was paralyzed by a snowstorm. I want to remind you, get the news headlines in your inbox every morning. Go to thecentersquare.com/Illinois where you can click that subscribe button. It's free. All you got to do is put in your email. You can select other states or even national headlines you want to get, but all of it's at thecentersquare.com. And don't forget, you can get this program each and every weekday morning at America's Talking Network. So let's get right on into it here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop.
And this is the final piece of what Governor Pritzker said, you have to go through me, which is why we're doing this on a Sunday in the middle of a snowstorm with little media out here. This is why we're doing this, is because this is the cover-up. This is how you cover up all the wrongdoings of state policy.
That was Republican State Senator Andrew Chesney on the Senate floor in Springfield Sunday afternoon as snow is coming down in the capital city just before the Senate passed a bill that would say you no longer have to publicize a name change in the newspaper. Republicans concerned that it means it's going to give a cloak to illegal immigrants in the state. Welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. And get this program each and every weekday morning at America's Talking Network. So let's get right on into it. All right. So during fall veto session, State Senator Ron Villivalam brought forward a bill that would say they're no longer requiring you to publish your name change in the newspaper. Seems simple enough. He says several states have this in place. They haven't had any problems, but Republicans back in November raised issue with the issue of, will this allow for illegal immigrants to name change and not have to notify anybody about it? Well, that brought back up during lame duck session at the State House, where Ron Villivalam presented in a Senate Executive Committee an amendment that he says he brought about since previously discussing it during lame duck session in November.
House Bill 5164, as you all recall, came before this committee in veto session. We had some outreach from the state's attorneys the morning after the committee hearing, and at their request, we've added Senate Floor Amendment number 1, which clarifies that if a court grants a motion to impound a file as allowed by the bill, a name change shall be reported to the Illinois State Police, and the Illinois State Police must update any criminal history, transcript, or offender registration for each person 18 years of age or older to include the change of name as well as the person's former name.
The Senate Minority Leader John Curran, he raised concerns that regardless of the amendments, there are still significant problems he sees with the abolishing or repealing of the requirement to publish your name change in the newspaper. Also, when it comes to non-citizens in the state illegally, he says that's a big problem because it means they could possibly just wipe away their past with a simple name change.
There were colleagues that thought someone here illegally, they're probably not in the system anyways. We should know who's here. We should be able to track any change of name to evade something in their past or history. Here we're allowing that to be sealed. The state police is not getting involved in that or tracking that. That is sealed, and that is going to be an easy path or avenue for someone here illegally to just kind of wipe clean their past, albeit their past is from outside of Illinois. So I still have that same concern that we had in the fall with this. You're not expanding the state police's use of tracking on these impounded and sealed records to those categories. I think the simplest fix is requiring the attachment of some record, registration with the state. You're in those specific legal categories to just show that you are properly in those legal categories before anything be impounded or sealed.
Defending the measure in the Senate Executive Committee, Vili Valem said that this measure is important because it's addressing something other states are doing, and it also protects certain individuals.
I just want to clarify that this legislation, when we discuss who's eligible, and specifically immigrants, it's people who are granted asylum, refugees, persons that are granted special immigrant juvenile status. All have been approved for lawful immigration status in this country. All are in the country legally. Each have gone through rigorous background checks with the Department of Homeland Security and FBI. With reference to more specifically what you're stating, the state of Washington has that exact language with regards to the impounding of these files. It's been in their statute for 2 years. We don't know of any, major catastrophes that have taken place in the state of Washington.
Now, fast forward after Sunday, it was in the Senate Executive Committee. Keep in mind, this is all while a snowstorm's coming down during lame duck session. Lame duck session is the final days of this General Assembly before the General Assembly that was elected in November is seated on Wednesday. So they were in Saturday, they were in Sunday, they're in Monday and Tuesday. The new legislature seated Wednesday. Before that, you've got these next few days where some controversial legislation could pass, and this being one of them about a name change not being published in the newspapers by mandate. So again, this measure would say you can go change your name legally in the courts, but you can request that it be suppressed so it doesn't have to be published publicly in the newspaper. Republicans on the Senate floor, they continued their questions about how this would impact non-citizen migrants coming to the states. State Senator Andrew Chesney on the Senate floor raised those concerns while also saying it's convenient. Here we are in lame duck session, and there's about a foot of snow outside in Springfield.
The Democrat Party in the state of Illinois has provided free health care, free education, free food, free shelter, and they have essentially rolled out the red carpet for illegal immigrants to come to the state of Illinois. Illinois is one of a few states that is growing population, but only in the illegal immigrants that are coming here. Legal residents, of course, are leaving the state. And then this was doubled down with the Trust Act that was wrongly signed into law and was supported by the overwhelming majority in your party. And this is the final piece of what Governor Pritzker said, you have to go through me, which is why we're doing this on a Sunday in the middle of a snowstorm with little media out here. This is why we're doing this, is because this is the cover-up. This is how you cover up all the wrongdoings of state policy. And so what this is going to do is it's going to allow illegal activity to continue to be alive and present in the state of Illinois, but that is all going to change on January 20th when Donald Trump comes into the state of Illinois and correctly removes the illegal activity in this state. Thank you.
And keep in mind, this was on a Sunday afternoon while the snowstorm was going on. Senator Vili Valem, the sponsor of the bill, he continued to defend the measure on the Senate floor.
This is not something that was held for a snowstorm. This was legislation that passed the House in May. We had it on the docket for veto session. We held it specifically because the morning after it passed committee, the state's attorney asked us for an amendment. This is legislation that is very focused on removing the requirement for an individual to publicize their name in a newspaper. Let's talk about who those individuals are. Those individuals are adoptees. They're survivors of domestic and intimate partner violence, survivors of human trafficking, survivors of gender-based violence, transgender people, and refugees.
That measure ultimately did pass the Senate. It can now go to the House, which will be able to bring it up on the House floor and pass that in the next 2 days before this 103rd General Assembly ends. Now, that was Sunday in the Senate. Saturday, before the snow started coming down, the House did meet. They didn't do much, but They had about 10 minutes of floor time, and that allowed for Republican State Representative Brad Halbrook to raise his concerns about Illinois' economic woes in 2025. And if things don't change, the states could be left behind.
As we welcome 2025, it's clear that the winds of change are sweeping across our nation when it comes to tax reform. 39 states starting this year with significant tax changes. 9 states are cutting individual taxes, including 2 that are adopting flat tax systems. 3 states are reducing corporate income taxes, and 2 are embracing first-year expensing provisions to encourage business development. Across America, states are recognizing the power of a stable, pro-growth, and competitive tax code to attract businesses and improve the lives of their citizens. Unfortunately, here in Illinois, we are not a part of that conversation. While other states are fostering economic opportunity through tax relief and reform, Illinois remains stuck in a cycle of high taxes, heavy regulation, and stagnant growth. The majority party in Illinois is even pushing for additional income taxes to make up for their spending. We've become a cautionary tale instead of a shining example. The consequences are clear. We are losing residences, businesses, and economic opportunity to states that understand the importance of competitive tax policy. Take property taxes, for instance. Illinois has become the highest property tax states in the nation, burdening homeowners and discouraging new investment. Our personal income tax system is outdated and less competitive as states shift to lower rates and even outright elimination of income taxes. And let's not forget corporate taxes. Illinois businesses face one of the highest combined corporate tax rates in the country, making it harder to compete and thrive. Meanwhile, states like Indiana and Iowa are lowering their tax burdens, creating environments where businesses want to grow and families want to stay. This is not a partisan observation. It's a reality that we can't afford to ignore. The evidence is overwhelming. States that prioritize tax reform and fiscal responsibility see results: stronger economies, more job creation, and greater population stability. Illinois must take note of this and take action. I believe it's past time to rewrite Illinois' tax policy to be pro-growth and family-friendly. Here are 3 important key steps that we can take immediately. Number 1, we must address our broken property tax system, ensuring homeowners are not taxed out of their homes while providing adequate funding for essential services like public safety and education. Number 2, lowering personal and corporate income tax rates will make Illinois more competitive and encourage both individuals and businesses to invest in our state rather than flee to others. Number 3, we must streamline and simplify the tax code. A simpler tax code with fewer loopholes and special carve-outs. This will reduce administrative burdens and create fairness for all taxpayers. Illinois has become the greatest economic development tool that a neighboring or southern state can have. This needs to change. In closing, every Illinoisan deserves a chance to thrive. Higher taxes shouldn't stand in the way of the American dream. Other states are showing us a path forward. Now it's time for us to follow their lead and make up Illinois a state where opportunity grows again.
When the General Assembly wraps up their work either Tuesday into Wednesday, all the 10,000 bills they filed in the past 2 years, they're no longer anymore. They file new legislation with the new General Assembly that's going to be seated Wednesday. So we'll be watching all of that. So still a couple of days here for lame duck session in Springfield, and it includes things like resolutions recognizing those who passed away. They did a resolution in the House recognizing Jimmy Carter, for instance. They're also looking at making soybeans the state's official bean. I saw that piece of legislation pop up. There's other measures impacting the Chicago Teachers Union. There's other legislation impacting the testing of water. So there's several things that it looks like they're going to be passing heading into the final days of lame duck session. We'll be watching closely here with the Center Square. Be sure to get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning at thecentersquare.com. Just register and you'll be able to stay up to date and get this program each and every weekday morning right here with America's Talking Network.
So nationally, we see a lot of customers moving out of our blue states, coming down to the south, to the red states. A lot of that has to do with pro-business and less government control. In Texas specifically, we see a lot of customers moving here from Illinois, the Chicago market, New York, and lots of customers are relocating here from California.
That was U-Haul's District Vice President Matt Merrill talking about where people are moving to Texas from as U-Haul releases their latest migration trends for the year of 2024. Welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. We've been focusing a lot here in Illinois about population. Illinois, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, has lost population all of the past 10 years, with the exception of last year. So we did see an influx of international migration, which boosted Illinois' numbers, according to the U.S. Census data that was released in December, again, breaking that decade of decline. But if you look at those numbers, as we talked with the U.S. Census, it showed a lot more people, residents of Illinois, moving out to other states. However, that was offset by the 111 or so thousand international migrants coming into Illinois. But that's not the only data we look at when we're talking about population. We've also looked at IRS data, migration data, and how people are moving from one state to the next and taking with them their income. Some recent numbers we saw from the IRS for Illinois showed that Illinois lost $10 billion in personal income by people moving to other states. Those numbers don't come out until the summer, so we'll obviously be watching for that. But another set of numbers that we've been watching at the Center Square is moving companies. Van Lines, they put out a report. U-Haul put out their report on Friday of last week. And it's pretty interesting. Illinois did improve. We went from number 48 out of 50 to number 45 out of 50. So we're still down in the bottom portion of U-Haul's growth states. And U-Haul put out some press kits, as we call them here in the industry, with a couple of their officials discussing things about how they see the migration in their regions. This is Matt Merrill. He is the Texas District Vice President for U-Haul, discussing what he thinks is drawing people to Texas and where they're coming from.
So nationally, we see a lot of customers moving out of our blue states, coming down to the south, to the red states. A lot of that has to do with pro-business and less government control. In Texas specifically, we see a lot of customers moving here from Illinois, the Chicago market, New York, and lots of customers are relocating here from California. As we look at our 2024 migration trends, Texas is number 2 with U-Haul truck, trailer, and one-way rentals net growth in our state. This marks the 9th consecutive year that Texas is in the top 2. So when considering why Texas is number 2 for the growth state for U-Haul this year, I think corporations are still moving here to Texas. 1, because we're a pro-business state. 2, the housing market is still very affordable in Texas. We have a good education system, and there's a lot of fun events that families can attend and have a great way of life. We have lots of sporting, amusement parks, restaurants, anything that you could want to visit with your family we have in Texas, which really brings a lot of people to Texas along with the low cost of living.
Another couple of states that were right there at the top while Illinois was down at the bottom was the Carolinas. And Jason Harden, he is the district vice president for that region for U-Haul, and he also shared some information about why he thinks that the Carolinas are drawing more people to that region as they see, again, tracking all of the one-way moving vans going from one state to another. An interesting set of data that U-Haul's been putting out for years, indicating which states are growing and which states are shrinking. Again, Illinois moving up from the year before from 48 to number 45. But you look on the other end of the list, and you've got states like Texas and Florida, while big losers like California, Massachusetts, and Illinois are on the bottom end of that list. So Hardin, he explains why he thinks that there is continued growth in the Carolinas and why people are moving there.
With all the reasons to move to South Carolina, some of the cities are seeing big growth. So you got Charleston, North Charleston, you have Myrtle Beach, and Greenville. People are moving there for many different reasons outside of just the cost of living, being close to the beach, just a great place to live. They're moving there because of jobs. We have a lot of tech coming in, manufacturing, such as Boeing, Volvo, BMW. So there's a lot of jobs here. Healthcare is booming in the area. With North Carolina being number 3, right behind South Carolina in growth, there's a lot of reasons people are moving here, and a lot of cities people are moving to. You got the Research Triangle, which includes Raleigh, the Wake Forest area. You have Durham up there. Wilmington's a huge place for growth right now. You're on the coast, so you get the coastal living with that. Charlotte's always growing. We have banking, we have medical, we have a little bit of manufacturing. So there's many reasons to move here for jobs. And then we also have Asheville, who most of y'all know just went through a pretty tough time with the hurricane. And I think that's just a real tale for what the Carolinas is about. During the hurricane, there was just a lot of flooding, a lot of people displaced from their homes. And the Carolinas came together to try to help people back on their feet and rebuild. So when we start looking at where the customers are coming from that's moving to the Carolinas, we see a lot of people coming from the Northeast, mainly New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania areas, trying to escape some of the colder weathers to get to the nice weather. Obviously jobs, cost of living is a big. We also see California, a lot of residents moving out of California. Mainly from talking to them, we hear cost of living is a big reason for them to move here. We get people as close as Tennessee, Virginia, even Florida that want to come to the Carolinas. So overall, I just think it's a great place to live, a great place to raise your family, have kids, and just escape some of these other cities and states that just aren't where you want to be anymore.
So again, that's the U-Haul data that shows Illinois at number 45 for growth states. That's not the best spot. The best spot being number 1, with states like Texas, and the Carolinas, and Florida really drawing more people to their states, while states like California and Illinois and New York, you have people moving out of the states, according to that moving company's data. You can see this story and other stories at thecentersquare.com. Get the newsletter, subscribe to this podcast, America's Talking Network on YouTube, and get the podcast wherever you get podcasts at search Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Again, still on the road, but happy to get you the updates as we get them. We'll be continued monitoring of the Illinois legislature. Lame duck session continues today. Tuesday is the last full day of the 103rd Illinois General Assembly before Wednesday, the 104th Illinois General Assembly will be seated, where they start over. All right, so those 10,000 bills they filed in the past 2 weeks, those are no more. It's going to be sine die as they close out the 103rd legislature. But the 104th legislature, they'll be able to file new legislation, and that's going to be a lot of reading on our part, but we'll be able to track what's going on and keep you updated. Again, get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. In your inbox to subscribe to the newsletter. Watch this program each and every weekday morning here with America's Talking Network on YouTube. And get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus. I'm Greg Bishop.